Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the GCSE science teacher, and in today's video we're going to be learning about CHD, or coronary heart disease. This is a type of condition that's a non-communicable disease. Essentially that means you can't catch it, you just would have it develop over time in a patient. Often patients are a lot older because of the lifestyle factors that have actually accumulated over time that have led to this condition. This is part of the GCSE biology curriculum. I'm a real life science teacher. I am making these videos to help students across the globe get the grade they want and help improve society in general by learning more science. So if you are interested in supporting me, feel free to subscribe. Thank you if you already have. I have an Instagram and a TikTok. All of it is at the GCSE science teacher. Thank you so much. So let's get started. The coronary arteries. First of all, if you haven't seen my previous video about the heart, definitely worth watching just to help you out. But just as a recap, the coronary arteries supply oxygenated blood to the heart. And this is vital because oxygen is needed for respiration. Especially, I should say, aerobic respiration. It's the most efficient version of respiration. It breaks down glucose with oxygen and releases the most energy per glucose molecule. And this is vital because as the heart muscle, the cardiac muscle contracts, it requires a lot of energy. And without that oxygen, we won't get enough contractions. And that means blood is not pumped around the body as efficiently. And that means less oxygen is supplied to other tissues, less nutrients, all that kind of thing. So it has a knock-on effect everywhere. So the coronary arteries are very important. Remember the structure of an artery, we've got a very small lumen to maintain the pressure of pumping that blood around the body. But also, if we have a buildup of, say, cholesterol, which is a type of lipid essentially, and this is built up over time through different lifestyle factors, and I'll allude to those in a moment's time. But what happens is it can actually block the flow of blood, because those fatty deposits that are made of cholesterol, often we call them fatty plaques, they can build up in the lumen or the lining of the artery, and it makes the lumen smaller. This means that the blood is less able to flow to the heart, and this can lead to blockages. So we can end up with tissue death or necrosis. We can end up developing, or someone can end up developing, coronary heart disease. This can increase the blood pressure in a patient, lead to blood clots. It can also lead to heart attacks or myocardial infarctions, and also death. So it's a very, very awful disease. It's a preventative disease, something that we as individuals can take ownership to prevent happening to us. But there are medications and treatments for people who are suffering with this condition as well. So let's have a look at the risk factors that can increase the likelihood of someone developing coronary heart disease. Some of the risk factors are much more commonly associated with lots of different types of diseases. Specifically, if we look at poor diet as one of the risk factors. So a diet that's high in cholesterol, high in saturated fat, high in sugar, salt, and alcohol can all increase the blood pressure, increase the amount of cholesterol, or the negative version of cholesterol. There's actually a couple of different types of cholesterol. And like I said, these are the different things that can actually increase the likelihood of coronary heart disease from developing. I have put energy drinks in here because I know my videos are often essentially the audience I know is GCSE age. A lot of students will be drinking energy drinks. At least I see some students are doing this. They are really not good for us because they have a lot of sugar in. We don't need them. Sleep is more important, really. But a lot of the foods that are now heavily marketed at people have a lot of high salt, sugar, and cholesterol in them, and that can increase our risk of diseases like this. One thing I will say is, though, of course, this is mainly people who are consuming only this type of food. I'm not a dietitian or a medical practitioner in any way, but a lot of the literature says that if we are only consuming these types of food, it can increase our risk of health problems like obesity that can link to different conditions like coronary heart disease. So by all means, have a treat now and again. I know I'm filming this when it's Christmas time. It's more of a risk factor if we're only eating these types of food. Okay. The second one is stress. Reducing our stress through exercise. That is definitely one of the best ways to prevent this from happening. But stress, increasing the blood pressure because of the stress-related conditions like anxiety and things like that, that can increase our likelihood of or someone's likelihood of developing conditions like coronary heart disease. So trying to mitigate and prevent that from occurring as best as we can help lower our blood pressure and help us feel better for longer. Smoking, vaping, both are very dangerous as well, because not only do they contain carcinogens, which are chemicals that can cause cancer, and we know of them. They can also cause lots of other respiratory conditions and lots of other inflammatory conditions. But smoking and vaping is linked to coronary heart disease. There's not as much information about vaping, but I know that that is starting to become known as a problem in the medical industry, the medical field of research. So both of those are risk factors as well. Lack of exercise. There's been a big push in research recently that shows that a lack of exercise can increase our risks of developing diseases like cancers, coronary artery disease, or coronary heart disease as well. And there are a small percentage of genetic factors too. So if there's any genes that potentially can increase the risk of coronary heart disease, that is also something to be aware of for the exam. These are some of the risk factors. So how do we actually prevent this from happening? Well, we know prevention is key. So not smoking, not eating too much high fat, high salt, high sugar foods, exercising regularly, those are the best ways. So the lifestyle choices are more of a preventative measure. But of course, if someone has this, those are something to implement. However, some of the negatives to this, if we were to look at a discussion around this, if we were to write a long answer question to discuss the pros and cons perhaps of different treatments, lifestyle choices like this, although they're great to reduce blood pressure and cholesterol build up in the arteries, they can actually require a lot of discipline and essentially a consistent approach to dealing with those habitual issues that people have. A lot of the time people are struggling with habits that have formed over time, like eating too much or smoking too much, that kind of thing. So lifestyle changes, yes, are a great option, but often people do struggle with them, which is why we see these diseases rising in the population. A couple of other medical procedures that can be done to help people with CHD or coronary heart disease. We have medications such as statins, and they are used to reduce the cholesterol in the blood. These are a prescription type of medication. They will have side effects. Often people who go on statins will need another medication to kind of reduce some of the symptoms of having that medication. Of course, as well, with any type of medication, you have to be regularly monitored on it. You have to remember to even take it in the first place. So it's not suitable for everyone. There is other types of surgical procedures to help people who have very clogged arteries. So we could use an angioplasty, which is essentially a balloon which is inserted and inflates the artery to actually open up the artery a bit more to prevent that blockage from occurring. This is also seen in something called a stent, which is a slightly different version of an angioplasty. This helps open and widen the artery to allow blood to flow through. There is, of course, a risk of infection with any type of surgery that is done. Antibiotics will be needed, and sometimes these are only a temporary fix, because often, unless this is coupled with lifestyle changes, people often have this surgery can continually develop fatty plaques in their arteries, and this can cause further problems down the line. I hope you found that video helpful. I know it was a short one, but if you did enjoy it, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with someone else you think would also benefit from learning more of this topic. Thank you so much for watching. I have been the GCSE science teacher, and you have been curious. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.